When I was a kid, this kid, I was just call him Laquan because rhymes with his name. But I always wanted to be really good at like climbing a tree. Like when I was reading stories growing up, some of my favorite characters were like very outdoorsy and they could climb trees real fast and everything. Maybe that'd be half the story was climbing the tree. And I just didn't have the grip. Out of fear of heights, I would just slide down. I didn't have it like that, but Laquan was fast. Was like, you know, up here and just knew like where to put the foot to get the hand. To just had like an awareness of everywhere that his body was, you know, and he was able to get really high. And then one day I was seeing a neighbor. The neighbor was like, "Did you hear about Laquan?" I was like, no, I didn't hear what happened. He was like, "Oh, he fell out of the tree, you know, and basically he got really high, but then a branch snapped, and so he had fallen, and then he bounced a couple times, and then he bounced between branches and just kind of hit every." You ever played pinball? He basically did that all the way down to where the actual final landing was pretty soft because every branch before that really broke his fall from what would have been a dangerous fall was now more of a plop with several lumps all over his body, right? And hearing that story was like painful because the kid that was telling me about it was there, so he was describing it in great detail. He was like, and then he was like, boom, and he was like, boom, and then there was one branch he hit, he was like, oh! You know, boom, 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 boom. And hearing it was like jarring, you know? I can only imagine what it would have been like to be Laquan falling out of the tree. And that's what it's kind of like to be in the U.S. as you like hear. So boom, boom, ah! Boom, boom, boom. Because I try when I go to different places to read a little bit of their news. I have to admit to you that I am not like so internationally minded all the time that I'm reading everybody's news all the time. I'm mostly focused on the news where I'm at. But in preparation, coming to Canada, I've been coming to Canada off and on for the past 2 weeks, and I've been reading news of the places that I've been going to, and let me just say, truly, it has been so sweet. It has been fundamentally adorable to read and watch your news delivered with such earnestness, as if these are real emergencies. They're not, I guarantee you they're not. The way, oh, okay. Even today, you know, I went to Montreal, I went to Ottawa, Calgary, and I was in Ottawa, and just watching some local news, reading an article, and it was like a man was pulled over speeding. I mean, where are you off to in such a hurry, buddy? Is the car not enough? Is the vehicle not enough? You have to punch it. Maybe you should have left earlier, all right? Maybe think about that. Think about your own safety, safety of others, you know? Speeding. Now, look at yourself. Got yourself pulled over, now you're late, all right? A man today was pulled over speeding, and when the police pulled him over, it turns out he had drugs in his vehicle. just think about the parents, you know? I think about... Sure, he was 45, but where did this start? Oh, something must be going on at home, you know? No, because marijuana is legal. He had drugs. He had narcotics. You see that news and you're like, oh, that's adorable. No. Meanwhile, you'll turn on the news, living in the States, and they'll just be, a man in Kentucky found dead, just legs. We don't know where. We have no idea what happened to the top half. It is just legs. We're assuming it's a man. These could be any legs, really. We just sort of said man because of the size of the shoes, but while we're at it, let's just be on the lookout for anyone. If you see any top halves missing a bottom half, please call this hotline. No. You see it. You see it all around, even here. You know, come here, turn on the news, maybe read some news, and you see people angry, distraught. They're Canadians in Calgary, furious, right? Interviewing them, and they're like, I can't believe that our city, I can't believe that the province would put a sign right here. A sign right here, like a sign right here. I've parked here for years. What are they thinking? This is what happens when you lose connection to the people, all right? Meanwhile, in the U.S., Trump has tried to defund Elmo. I didn't do it. No, it's up for everybody. Bert, Ernie, Cookie Monster, anybody can get it. Nobody's safe. And so you see, when you come here and you get a break, you know, you see people like upset about something, but it's not like an umbrella of an issue. It's just their issue. You know what I mean? There's just something going on with them personally. That's refreshing. It really is. As small or as big as the personal problem is, it's nice, you know? It's nice to be able to talk to someone and get a sense of what's wrong with them. They're not having a good day. They're not happy, very angry or upset, but you're getting something from them that isn't this thing that it feels like no one can do anything about, you know? Well, like, met a man in Montreal, and we just casually started chatting, and he seemed like something was wrong, and I don't know what led me to do it, but I was just like, are you, like, how's your day going, you know? And he was like, she left. Meanwhile, in the U.S., if you ask someone how their day is going,
I won't hold it against you. If you're half the warrior Kane says, 'tis a wonder you don't reek of dead Ixal. Welcome to the Sultanate of Ul'dah. I am Rauban al-Din, General of the Immortal Flames. But you did not come all this way to trade formalities.
it going?
Good, how are you, baby?
Going good.
How was your day?
Not too bad.
Was it good?
How about you?
It was good. Not bad. Quite fast. You leveled up! Yay! You leveled up!
You don't gotta close the door if you don't wanna.
With what?
You don't gotta close
Oh,
the door.
okay.
I just close it because of the cats
I
and
wasn't
stuff.
sure if you wanted to close or not.
depending on who you ask, depending on the state or city, you're going to get a very different answer. But a lot of the people that I've asked, hey, how's your day going? Maybe I'm just at a store. They're ringing me up. I'm like, how's your day going today? And then they're like, oh, you didn't hear? You didn't hear? He's outlawing reading. It's over. No, it's rough because then, you know, we have Trump wins. I know y'all saw. And then he's talking wild. He's like, Canada's gonna be the 51st state, right? I didn't say it. I do think, though, that one of the reasons, even the dog, even the dog, dogs don't even have an understanding of, like, geographical boundaries or borders, and even the dog. That's wow. Did y'all do that on purpose? I know you've been booing every time somebody says 51st state. Did you teach the dogs to also? I think one of the things that did happen with that is that he said it in a way that was so glib and was so dismissive of not just Canada's like autonomy, but also he didn't even try to woo you. And I think it's because it's a hard sell. You know what I mean? You're telling me you don't want to be part of the United States, you don't want to get shot for free? No, in the U.S., let me tell you something. In the U.S., the United States of America, you get shot for free. You only have to pay to take the bullet out. That's... You don't want to have the health care you have now, but not. You don't want to... No. You don't want your 12-year-old to read at a 12-month-old level. Why? You know, I look around, I ask, why? You don't want to pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to an insurance company that will act like they don't know you when you call to fulfill your claim. Come on. You don't want to make the only food you can afford, food that you guys don't even question what meat it is after a while. All right. To each their own. You know, because look, it is a tough sell to be the 51st. I don't think that it would really work. One, because of the things that we're used to. You know, just in government alone, you have a parliamentary process. We have Congress, right? You have several parties. You have lots of parties to choose from. I say lots because we have two. So even three would be like, wow! You know, like more and more of the U.S. when you travel, it just feels like it just feels like as someone from the States, when I go to other places and I'm learning whether it's their culture, different processes of government or just customs or something, I always come off like I'm not used to anything. Like they took me on a date and I got to the table and I was like, salt and pepper. Because that's what I'm used to. That's the totality of the spice rack of American politics. Yeah. You get your salt and you get your pepper. Meanwhile, y'all have paprika. Yeah. You know, I'm not saying it's perfect. You know, you have these like 5 parties, only 3 are probably ever gonna win, but you get these like choices, these different pushes. You know, in the U.S. Oof. We got Republicans, we got Democrats, and we got like Jill Stein. Like I've been learning about your parties. I really didn't realize how much deeper it went as far as like the seats and the majority, and that no confidence vote is a pretty big thing. That's crazy. That's a no confidence vote. Okay. Look, because I found out about no confidence, and I was blown away. So basically, I know you live here. I'm not telling you what it is. I'm telling you how I found out what it was, right? Okay, so with the no confidence vote, which is basically, if I have it right, it's when you have your like leadership party in power, but everybody is like, they're bad. Like, this is horrible. I don't even know if they know what they're doing. And then you talk to them in interviews and they're like, look, we don't know, but we gonna figure it out. And so then you have no confidence in them. So then, you know, they get pushed to a no confidence vote. They get that no confidence vote. Then, you know, you have to rejig the government. Basically, have to be like, all right, y'all are not it. Let's get somebody who is it, right? And that, as like someone from the States, that blows my mind. That you can just not have confidence. That you cannot have confidence in your leadership and you don't have to wait. Because trust me, it's not just this election. There have been plenty of elections throughout my entire life where people voted, somebody won, and the confidence dwindled within about 6 weeks. And then we were like, oh, in 3 years and some change, you're gonna find out how we the people feel. I hope you're ready for that. No, I don't think you can get people who are a part of a system that has like a parliamentary process that has no confidence votes and then give them what we have in the U.S. I don't know if that would go well to be like, no, I know we voted for him, but that was a different time, and we didn't know that he was out of his mind. We didn't know that he was completely. When he was talking, when he was running, all the brains seemed like they were in the head. And so people were like, I like what he said, I think, yeah. And then he won, and then we realized that the brains were gone. And now we have no confidence, and we should do something about that presently, right? Before there's no food on the shelves. A lack of choice was how I knew I was broke. Yeah, I mean, when I was like out on my own for the first time, I had a choice between these 2 types of cereals I could afford. One was like a little corn pop thing. Whatever it was the only ingredient was high fructose corn syrup. And then there was this other cereal that was like, okay, I'm positive it was for people. I'm 100% positive it was for people, but it was built like dog food, okay? It just had a very pellety look to it. It had when you poured it, it had the brrr of like pellet. Didn't help it also went in a bowl, right? And that was what I did, back and forth, because I was broke. And I just had these 2 choices. I could just go from one to the other, and one got me real, like, jittery and excited, and I usually crashed by like 2 p.m. And then the other one definitely felt like I should be barking if I'm eating it. Then I got a little bit of money in my pocket. Ooh, I got spoiled for choice. Then I didn't even know what to do. I'd buy some cereal and I'd be like, it's good, but it's not the best. It's fine. Completely forgetting it could have just been these 2. No, That's what it feels like. Look outside looking in, that you have like a whole parliamentary process. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm sure you have your problems. I get that. You don't tell anybody, but I'm positive that you have your own problems. I get it. And I understand people's frustration. I know that there's been strikes in Canada. I know that there are people that are worried about housing. A lot of the same things that people are worried about in other countries. It's not as if I'm projecting some like absolute heaven and haven onto you. I know that it's a country full of people and people have problems. It's just we have more. It's a lot. Yeah, I mean. It's a lot, and I don't think that it would work, you know, because even with a prime minister versus a president, your prime minister still fits in that legislative branch, you know. There's a lot of things reining your prime minister in, no matter who they are, and a president we're coming to realize by accident is a king. That's a king. We thought we left, and we really did. We were like, we don't want a king. Get out of here, Britain. And Britain was like, give it a couple hundred years. You'll want one. No, because we have this different branch, this executive branch, where the president's power resides, that is deciding to not really pay attention to or heed our legislative or judicial branch, you know, because it's really the legislative branch that's supposed to decide if we defund Elmo. That's really their purview. But he was like, no, I'm the only one that gets to look like this. You most recently had a decision to make. You most recently had an election. And, I was here before the election, now I'm here after the election, and I was never going to tell anybody what to do. I did, while I was in Montreal and Ottawa, tell people to just like look across the fence. Just check if you like that. You know, because they always say that the grass is greener, but sometimes your neighbor doesn't have grass. Sometimes it's just a Buick on blocks. And that is tough. You know, because then our news would become your news. Because look, don't be wrong, like I said, I'm fully aware, and I also believe I'm open to the ideas that Canada has problems I'm not even aware of, right? Like there's a chance, I'm imagining, right? If you're in the right place at the right time for this bad thing to happen, if you go out into one of your beautiful parks and you where you're not supposed to be, you playing around, it's possible to get bit by a moose, right? It's not all roses and bubbles over here. You can really get got over in Canada, right? You could get bit by a moose if you put yourself in that situation. You really stay in those neighborhoods, you know what I mean? If you're really trying to live that lifestyle, you know? That's what comes with it. But trust me when I tell you, you're not ready for daily U.S. news. Sure, you could get bit by a moose here, but just the other day, a man used an alligator to rob a liquor store. Which is one of the more effective robberies you can engage in, right? You know, because you walk in to a liquor store, I'm assuming to buy some alcohol, make a night of it, you know? And then there are people in the U.S. that are desperate. You know, desperate because we don't share the same social safety nets. We don't even share some of the same attitudes around a network of community the way that Canadians do as a baseline. I know not everybody agrees, and you have your conservatives, your liberals, and everything, but for the most part, there's a genuine understanding that, like, okay, healthcare, we're gonna have that, we're gonna do our best with housing, we're gonna do our best with all these things, right? And in the U.S., it's mostly like, hey, get it how you live. And sometimes getting it how you live includes robbing a liquor store, going to where you know there will be cash, going there with an alligator that might be a pet. I have no idea. I truly don't know if this is a pet or if this is an alligator that he found, or if this is an alligator that he like going in on it with. He's like, look, if I get the cat, because look, I do like the idea of them being partners. I do like the idea of them getting together and being like, listen, all right, you like raw chicken. You like raw chicken thighs, okay? If I have cash, I can buy that stuff. I can give you some of that. So we'll split it in chicken thighs and cash. Cash to me, chicken thighs to you, just so that we're clear, right? So I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna pick you up like a puppy, right? But then I'm gonna grab the back of your tail, I'm gonna swing you around, right? And when I swing you around, I want you to be like, ah! Just really make a show of it, keep the mouth open, let them know what could happen if they don't act right, right? Because he didn't go in, this man did not walk in holding it like a rifle like anybody can get it. Hey, don't move. Right? No, this man came in, swinging gator at people, right? And people couldn't run out fast enough. Now, it was a mistake to start swinging it in the doorway, because you really only want the actual cashier to be intimidated. Now, you've made 8 people think, all right, it's all of us against him, the alligator. You have more adversaries than is necessary. Then you try to get the cash and everything, but it's hard to get the cash because the alligator, he's not really thinking like a robber. Alligator was told to do his thing, so he doing his thing. Like that wiggle that they do, going as hard as he can, throwing hip, right? Like, alligators don't have booty, but if they did, he'd be twerking, right? Snapping and everything, which does make it hard to get the cash, right? Because now this cashier trying to put it all in his hand. This dude didn't have a bag. So now he just got to stuff cash in his pocket while holding on to the tail of the alligator. And the alligator, I don't know. I don't speak alligator, but I'm assuming the alligator is like, is this part of it? Because after a while, the alligator is being more difficult than helpful, right? Stuffing. Then he runs out. They call the cops and everything. And look, I can't imagine what it's like to be a cop that gets the call that there's someone robbing a liquor store with an alligator. I'm sure those cops were like, couldn't it just be a gun? No, you're not ready for news like that. Because I'm sure, look, there's property crimes, there's violent crimes everywhere in the world. You have your crime. But it seems like, from what I've been reading about your crime, that it does, and I don't mean this in like an insensitive way, but it does seem like most of your crime kind of like makes sense. Like you get to the bottom of it, and it's like, oh, he wanted what he had, and so he stole it from him, right? The U.S. has a lot of weird crime because a lot of our resources have been shut down, right? So some of the crime is not necessarily just to do the crime, it's just people doing what they think is necessary in their head that happens to be a crime. Like, a good example was, there was a man who called the police because he broke into this restaurant, right? Broke into the restaurant and I think he just wanted food. That's what I'm gathering from like the call. So he just wanted food. He called in to 911, and they were like, 911, what's your emergency, right? And he's telling them off top, look, okay, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. All right, I did break in here, get a little something to eat, make a little snack, all right? But somebody else is in here, and y'all need to come quickly. Like, I'm all for a little burglary, but somebody in here being weird. Like, y'all need to come for real. Oh, I'm scared. Oh, please come arrest me. Because this is my thing as well, is that Canada would only become the 51st state by legislation or by force. It's not going to happen by legislation, because even if the more conservative counterparts of your government really wanted it, the people have made clear that they don't want it, right? And so then there would be steps taken, there'd be no confidence, there'd be all these things to stop that thing from happening. And the one thing that I don't think people are counting on is, even if there was an attempt to do it by force, people think that Canadians don't fight. But your favorite sport, your favorite sport in the world, you have access to all the sports. You have access to all the sports. I understand it gets very cold here, but the one that you picked was the one where a fight could break out at any time. And not just like break out. Like, sometimes there's a reason. Sometimes there's a clear, I don't really follow hockey because mainly I can't see it. I want to follow it so bad. Everybody seems like they're having a good time, but every time I've watched hockey, I've had to pretend that I know what's happening. You know what I mean? It's like being tone deaf watching like a singing show, like a singing competition, like watching X Factor tone deaf, and then you're just waiting for other people to cheer, so you're like, oh, they getting it, no. Yeah, actually, no, you're right, they bad. No. Anytime I've watched hockey, I've just seen the people's heads move. I've tried to move my head where their head moves, and tried to look at where I think they're looking at and everything. And then you hear the clicking and the clacking of the sticks and stuff. And sometimes it'll click clack extra, so I'm like, oh, the puck must be over there, but it's not. It's not at all. It's actually over here. I don't know what they're doing over there. And then somebody will be rammed into a wall, a clear wall so you can see. I've never seen, only in hockey and adult films have I seen somebody pressed up against glass like this. The way they... Wow. That, I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, ooh, y'all think he gonna come through? No, and then you have the fights. And the fights are very interesting to me. Truly, because it's like, there's a strange energy to the fights. No, you never really know when they're gonna pop off, and sometimes there's a backstory. Sometimes it's like, oh, look, 3 games ago. You don't just have fights, you have drama with the fights. You have a real soap opera to follow. And then you see him and those gloves off. I remember the first time I saw it, they threw the gloves off and I was like, ooh, won't your hands get cold? And then they go swinging each other. And then what I really love is they grab the jersey for leverage. Missing, horrible, missing, nothing but missing, and really try to get close. Come here. every once in a while, you get somebody with incredible balance and hand-eye coordination. They throw those gloves off, they grab them. You would think they weren't on skates. They swing it around and slide it, but they're still like... It's incredible. Anytime, anybody can get it. Incredible stuff. People really believe that Canadians don't fight, that they don't have fight in them. We didn't know you had booze, you know? But I knew. I knew because a while back, I saw a news story that took place in Canada, you know, trying to be international. And I saw this news story about a man who was woken up in the night when 2 burglars broke into his home. And we were trying to figure out what they could take. They clearly hadn't done a good job casing his residence. So they were just looking for whatever, right? And then he wakes up, and let me first say this. If someone breaks into my home and is looking for what to steal, I don't know if I'm gonna confront them immediately. I think I might try to come up with a plan. You know, maybe I'll pretend I'm a ghost. They break in, I go to the closet that's closest to a vent. I'm like, spirits live here, y'all better stop, you gonna have to return it or something, like, you gonna be haunted, you don't wanna be haunted, I don't care how big you are, you can't fight haunted. Everything in here cursed. You don't want those problems. No. Maybe that doesn't work. Maybe they're not afraid of ghosts. Maybe they don't believe in ghosts. Maybe they know it's me. Plan B. I'm gonna act like a bigger man. They haven't seen me yet. No. Lean around the corner.
Hey! Don't make me put my killing shoes on. Yeah, you lucky I don't have my shoes on right, because if I put my shoes, everybody dying in here.
Because that's plan C. To act like my own dog. You know? Lean into my phone, make a recording, put it on the ground, slide it down after I hit play. That way they think it's behind them. I'm probably gonna cough. Trying to bark makes me cough. And then, last resort, yeah, might have to fight them. You know, might have to just run up on them and do what men do. And I have to roll up on them real quick and start biting as hard as I can. Yeah, please believe you're gonna wish it was a dog when I get done, all right? I brushed and I flossed tonight, so get ready. Well, but these dudes, they broke into this guy's home and they had ski masks on, and I don't know about you, but if somebody already got the ski mask on, it just makes me feel like they're a professional criminal. You know what I mean? Like, you got the ski mask on already. I'm like, this is real crime we're dealing with right now. And this dude
doesn't hesitate at all. And all he got on is his shorts, by the way. He's just like shorts, no shirt, anything. And he starts pushing them up against the wall, and he starts fighting both of them and really swinging. And they're swinging at him, and he's taking some hits, but he's giving a lot. Just bow, 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 bow. He's like fight juggling them. Because he'll hit one and that one will fall, and then he gets to concentrate on this one for a second. Bow, 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 and then this one gets up. He's like, you get some too. Bow. And then their fight, he puts up a real fight to the point where at first they're ganging up on him. And then they're both like, look, I don't know how nice this apartment is. Maybe nothing in here is worth these lumps we're catching. And so then they try to leave. But he does keep punching them as they're trying to leave. He does just keep whooping ass as they're clearly turned around trying to exit now. He like trying to choke one from behind and kick the other one. And then they run out. They run out of his home. He successfully defended his castle. But then he does also leave. So then he left. I was like, uh-oh. And then you just see in the security camera in his garage him drag one of them back in. And I was like, Normally, in the U.S., there's a sentiment around this sort of thing. Like, there's warnings. It's like, you know, there's yard signs. Don't come unless you're armed. Blah blah blah. Like, there's a very frenzied passion. There's a fever dream in the U.S. of legally being able to kill someone that comes into your home. We like it a lot. There are some people that are like, please break in. I want to kill you, right? And that is almost always so that the person who wants to do the killing can use a gun. They want to shoot someone. They want to be able to shoot someone. And this man, this Canadian, he didn't have a gun. He desperately wanted to use these hands. He brought them back into the, I don't even know what crime this is now. Like, this was burglary, and it has turned kidnapping, I think. It can still be self-defense if you dragging him back in and dragging him by the top of the ski mask too. So he over here kicking, fighting, going backwards, right? And so then he brings that dude back in, punching, closes the door. This dude trying to get up against the door. He throws it back down and locks the door. And I was like, y'all done accidentally broke into the devil's house. That's crazy. And I think he had one of those things where instead of a key, it was like a combination thing. So TV or just chatting or reading a book or whatever. And there was, do y'all remember the commercials for like a Rascal? If you don't know what a Rascal was, it was some direct-to-consumer marketing that was going on TV where you were old and you were in your little chair, but they made it feel like a motorcycle. They made you feel like you could really hit that throttle on them, right? And then you could go off-road with the Rascal, too. Like, you could just be going over tree trunks and stuff like that without tipping and stuff. And so there was a guy who looked like he had a new Rascal, right? And it wasn't going fast for us. Like, if you could walk, it wasn't going fast. But if you were in a wheelchair and you hit that throttle, you zooming, right? And so you could tell he couldn't really handle it because his head was back while he was. So my man's head was like all the way back. Like, he really couldn't look up, and which is crazy because I swear he was going this fast. Like, but my man is like, right? It was incredible. My man is just, you know, and I'm sure in his mind, you know, because everything slows down a little bit as you get older, and now you go on walking speed again, and you haven't been walking for a while. So now all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is what I did when I was back in my 80s, right? So, because I don't know how old he was, but he was dusty, right? He was
You know what I'm talking about. Don't do that. I'm not being mean. It's just at a certain age, no matter who you are, at a certain age, once you hit those like 90, like once you get up in the 9 in the front of the number for your age, there's just a level of like, there's a level of ashy that is time. Y'all want to act like y'all know what I'm talking about, but y'all know that sometimes people get flaky. Okay. I'm gonna move on. Anyway, so my man is zooming, right? He like, and then on the other side of this corner leading to the living room is this other guy who's like in a proper wheelchair, but it has like some little modifications. So I guess it's not a traditional wheelchair. Like he's not fully pushing it himself, but it looks like it has like some little levers on it. I don't know what it was, but it felt like a knockoff Rascal. Like it felt, you know what I mean? Like it felt like somebody sold him some damaged goods, or they were like, no, it's a Rascal. It's like, I don't see the throttle anywhere. Just keep looking. It's a Rascal. And so he's going like really, really slow. And as they're getting closer, you know those math problems?
I'd enjoy it more if I could actually see who was on stage. All these pricks waving their fucking flags about are really starting to piss me off. Have you taken any illegal substances whilst
You know
you've been
those
here?
math problems are like if a train... You know what I'm talking about? Like, if a train leaves Detroit at 5, going 60 miles per hour, and then a train leaves Louisiana going 80 miles per hour at 7 o'clock, when will they crash? Because then even in school they'd be like, when will it crash? I'd be like, this is a dark. Why can't it just be a delivery or something? This is... You wrote the textbook and you couldn't crash. Now I gotta figure out when everybody's gonna die. I'm not even allowed to warn them in this scenario. But anyway, basically this dude has like, he's kind of turning the wheel, but it looks like it's assisted somehow, and the other guy's zooming, and then I'm standing at the corner and I'm like, who do I try to warn? Because in my head for a second I was like, they're gonna miss each other because this guy's going way too fast. And then I realized that he going fast for him. He going walking speed for us, and then this other guy is going nowhere. Like very, very slow, right? And then, I'm not proud of it, but it took me so long to make a decision because I was bad at math. It took me so long to make a decision that they did collide when they both got past the corner. The fast one hit the slow one, and he tipped. And he didn't tip. This is the worst part, actually. So he didn't tip, like his chair didn't tip, right? He just tipped from getting hit, and then he fell the rest of the way out. But while he was falling, he was hanging on. Like while he was falling, he was like, no! So he's screaming no, like he don't want to fall. And to be honest, I had time to get to him, but I was so shocked that this was happening. And so then he kept falling to the point where one foot was on the ground now. I was like, ooh, you should stand. You could stand up. There's still time to stand up. But then he had tipped like booty over knee, and then he was hanging, and then the chair was tipping to the point where I was like, the chair gonna fall on you. And then he just sort of let himself spill, but his butt was already on the ground, but he was still screaming like he was in the air. And then he finally let go of the little handle that was at the front, and then he laid back. And I was like, I probably could have done something. Because to be fair, it was going to happen whether I was watching or not. That moment had nothing to do with me. I was just a witness. And that's how I felt about the debate last night. Because whether you watched it or you didn't watch it, okay, I watched the whole thing. I watched it top to bottom, and Okay. Everything happened that we, figured might happen. But this is the thing that I guess I can't get over. It happened so quickly. We were worried that like maybe an hour in, Biden might have like a senior moment or something. But he said, no, I'm gonna start slow and I'm gonna ratchet up. Because early, maybe second question, maybe first question, I can't remember. But he said something. And he was kind of trying to get through it. And when he was trying to get through it, he started looking down while he was trying to get through it. And then he stopped talking. I don't know if there's been a deeper silence in my life than when that man stopped talking. It was still his turn. He had stopped saying anything. And while he was not talking, I was talking. Like while he had been like, right? Like once he got here, when he was looking down, I was like, fall! Just fall! You'll clear this whole thing out if you fall right now. This man has had the nerve to fall every day. Except that day there. I'm yelling at the screen, fall! If that man had fallen, we'd be having a different conversation right now, right? If he had fallen, they would have scooped him up on a stretcher. Would have been like, look, the president had a great answer ready, but gravity is a Republican, so the odds were stacked against him. He's brave for even showing up against that red Republican elephant ass gravity. Oh, it was insane. I felt like I was going crazy because this is the thing that's infuriating, right? And I'll probably come back to it in a second, but the thing that I cannot get out of my head is that we all knew, and everything that happened is what we said would happen, and now pundits are talking to us on TV, on like legacy media, talking about what happened the way that we talk about what was gonna happen before it happened, and they want to convince us that they're worth watching. You ever tell somebody a story and then time passes and then one day they try to tell you your story like you didn't tell them the story, and you look at them like either you crazy or you think I'm crazy because I told you that. You're not bringing me any new information. That's what it feels like. It's like after the debate, I watched the after debate. And they were like, he is older. These are the same people, by the way, who have been like, no, we have to chase him around the White House. We can barely keep up with them. And I knew they were lying then. Because that's the thing. It's like he did so poorly. It fully distracts from the fact that Trump didn't do well either. But you know how, okay. One time, I was with some friends, and we were headed to a party. We get there, and there's like two more friends that we're waiting on, and one of them is supposed to bring all the drinks, right? And one of my friends had already poured out a beer, was drinking his beer, and when we were stepping outside, because it was like an outdoor in front of the house sort of event, we're all on the lawn and everything, we see one of our friends who was supposed to bring the drinks, right, crash right into a light pole, right? And right when he crashed into the light pole, we all screamed, and a couple people ran over there. And then my friend who had poured the beer was like, oh my God, I dropped my drink, right? On its own, not good. In reference to something much bigger happening, nobody ended up caring, right? And that's how it felt. Like, it's insane. Like we are not crazy. We're not crazy, they're crazy. You know what I mean? We're not crazy, they're crazy. We said it already. They're crazy. They just don't listen. They don't listen. How do you not listen when it's everybody saying it? You know? Like, there was one time in particular where Biden was struggling to say something. And even Trump, even Donald Jail Trump, looked at Biden, and you could see it on his face. He was like, is this motherfucker all right? And you can tell because I've never seen this on Trump's face ever. Trump had an actual eyebrow arc of concern. I've never seen him have that ever. He's never looked as phased to me as when he was looking at Biden next to him going, is it? Like, it wasn't an act. Trump was genuinely wincing, which concerns me because he was the closest to him, which means something worse was going on in person close to him than what we even saw. We think we up close because the camera's zooming in. No, Trump hears him fighting to breathe. It felt so terrible. It felt like when you're a kid, when you're a little kid, and you get into it with another little kid, and they're bullying you, right? And you tell that kid, my dad could be your dad. And then maybe you go home, and maybe you go home with a shiner, maybe you go home with some cuts and bruises, and your dad asks what happened. And you're like, hey, this kid's been bullying me, right? And I tried to tell my teacher, and she didn't do anything. And so your dad's like, okay, I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna go to school tomorrow, we're gonna sort this out. And maybe he goes to pick you up and settle things up with the teacher right when the bully's dad comes and tries to settle things up with the teacher too, because his kid told him a different story, you know? His kid told him, hey, this kid's school's being a bitch, so I had to hold him down and everything. And the teacher is like, look, everyone's here, maybe we can mediate. And so they do that thing that schools do where they don't really know how to help. You know what I mean? They're just like, if you could stop, that'd be great. Or not, I didn't see it, so whatever. But don't fight, because we have a zero tolerance policy on violence, so even if you fight back, you're gonna get expelled, you know what I mean? So then, now it's just you and this kid that you know bullies you, and then him and his dad teaching him his ways, and your dad teaching you his ways, and now they're outside, you know? And maybe your dad tries to have a heart-to-heart with the other dad, because both two dads of kids, and so he says to him, he's like, hey, look, can you... It was 1969. And then the bully dad goes, is this motherfucker all right? Like, it felt crazy. Because we knew. And we didn't know this exact thing would happen, but we knew we didn't feel good, and we knew we didn't feel good for months. You know what I mean? Before there was ever a debate. When we just knew it was going to be an election, we didn't feel good. That should tell everyone something. Not feeling good about an election that isn't even going to happen for another year, because we knew who the contenders were early on, right? Some people tried to run the Republican Party and they got washed, right? But we knew it was going to be Trump, and we knew it was going to be Biden for a very long time, and we didn't feel good since last year. And no one took that to heart, Republican or Democrat. People did not feel good, right? You ever get cold feet a year before the wedding? Because if so, maybe you shouldn't do it, you know? Maybe they're not the one. We're not crazy, they're crazy. You understand that, right? Like, it's not us. It's not us at all. Because, you know, we have eyes and ears and we use them or whatever. And that's the other thing that really stuck out to me is that, you know, no one really talks about Trump's performance because of Biden's, but Trump didn't do that well. There was a lot of like open line to the point where what do you do in that situation? Like, everyone was kind of trashing the moderators for not doing some live fact checking in the moment. Sure, but what do you do when somebody lies that much, and how they lied, right? Because this is the thing. We found out last night that the tactics work. Trump lies fast. He talks so fast that when you hear the lie, you're like, but he didn't stutter, so it sounded kind of true. Like, I know it's not right because I was there. Because that's the other thing. He'll be lying about stuff that we were here. Like, we all remember him being president. We were here. So don't tell me it was different. I was then. And Biden, I'm assuming, is trying to tell the truth. He's saying something. But we found it that, like, you know, a fast lie beats an unintelligible truth. It does. Even in your personal lives, it does. Let's say you out with friends, right? Out with friends, and then let's say, you know, you've been bad. You've been terrible even. You did a little cheating, right? And then you get caught. And now they're holding the cell phone in front of you and they're like, who is this, right? And then you say, who is it? How am I supposed to know everybody that's in my phone? Do you know everybody that's in your phone? That's crazy. People got contacts in their phone all the time they don't remember. Sometimes I go through my phone and I look at my contacts and I'm like, who are these people? Who are any of these people? It's a lie that almost sounds kind of fairly true. Like, do you remember every contact in your phone all the time? No. Or let's say you were out and somebody tried to get you to be bad. They tried to get you. Try to get you to do some cheating. And you were like, no, I don't want to cheat. No, I love them. Get away from me, right? But later, let's say later, unbeknownst to you, one of your friends thinking they're doing you a favor or maybe playing around or playing too much, right? They hand your phone to that person and that person puts their number in your phone, right? So now when your partner is holding the phone to you, who is this in your phone? What's this number? And you try to tell the truth and you go, I was like, because before, in 1969, No? Because what do we do now? What's the plan? You know what I mean? What's the plan? Are we just gonna move on like nothing happened? Or are we gonna just hope for the best? What's really the plan? Because we're acting as if there aren't other people that can run. And we're acting that way because of the circular thinking. Because look, legacy media, sometimes I trash them. People in the DNC, sometimes I trash them. But the thing that they weren't wrong about is the reasoning that lets you land where you were before. It's not lazy. It's not out of not caring. It's out of not having a belief and knowing your options. That's what happens. And it happened to both parties, by the way, right? It happened in both scenarios where there were people in the national conventions of these parties not really sure where to go from here. And so you go with what worked last time, even if it's not going to work this time. You know? And I think it's tough. It's tough when you have something like that, right? Something where unequivocally we can all look at it and be like, yes, the man is old and maybe it wasn't his night, but this looks very bad and it does not inspire confidence in us. It doesn't inspire confidence in the people that we want to vote for this man, if nothing else so the other man can't win, or because we really believe in the policies and the actions of this man, right? It doesn't help. And then you have people who are those could-be contenders, right? Because there's a conspiracy theory that I'd like to believe. And I'll share it with you, but I have no evidence for what I'm saying. There's a conspiracy that they wanted this debate. People in the DNC want this debate to be before the convention so that if he didn't perform well, there'd be time to rally behind someone else and replace him. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it looks like a setup. It looks like a setup if I ever seen one. Like, you know? Because the idea that he was at Camp David prepping for this debate for a week and that they actually made him prep, because he was hoarse. Why is this man hoarse? It's because they had him really talking like he was going to be out there dunking on Trump instead of just giving him a week-long nap. Let that man rest. Y'all worked him so hard he showed up with a cold. Set him up to fail, right? Because who else could it be, you know? Some people say Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom's a tough one, though, because then, right after the debate, Gavin Newsom goes up there and does a full-on... I'm very happy to be here and not at home in New York where I live, because I don't know if you heard, but New York City had an earthquake today, which, you know, would be terrifying if it wasn't already New York City. There's so much happening in New York all the time. It's fun to think about where everybody was during that earthquake, you know? There's a lot of crime in New York. Somebody was getting robbed during that earthquake. Somebody was in the middle of like, give me everything. Don't move! No. Some people were in their apartment. Apartment shakes. Buildings are so old and decrepit, they're like, I knew it was gonna collapse one day. I was just hoping I'd be at work when it did, but it's an odd thing, you know? Maybe somebody is visiting New York. They just got there, very excited. And you know that annoying type of oh Lord, okay. Not talking about you. It just sounded like so much stuff. Like that, it's clearly more than one plate. Oh, but maybe somebody just got there and they're very excited. They're like, ooh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go get some street food. I'm gonna get an authentic New York hot dog. This is gonna be amazing. And then earthquake hits. And then they are covered in hot dog water. It'd honestly be the most New York experience they could have. Another thing, I think enough time has passed that I can talk about it without it being awkward. Like, One of the weirdest things to me about 2020 in general was, you know how there's bunker people? There are people that save up a bunch of money to build a bunker in different types. Some people build a bunker underground. Some people have a different location they're gonna go to if things hit the fan and everything. Some people have like a whole site that they've built and stuff. And we've always, for years, for decades, made fun of them, right? It's something that started in the Cold War because they were so sure that the Russians were gonna bomb us that they started to make bunkers, and it was a normal thing. Then, as those sort of fears started to disappear a little bit, it became less common. But then there were some people who were still like, guys, something's wrong. Some bad things could happen. So they made bunkers, but then they started making it with, you know, their personal wealth and everything. And we made fun of them all the time, you know? And then 2020 hits, global pandemic that affects everyone in every country. And almost all the bunker people were like, that shit ain't real. But you built in case the whole world. Can I go in the bunker? Oh, man. I've been thinking a lot about just the general power of marketing, of ads and everything. And I don't know about y'all, but I always feel like I'm smarter than ads. Like, I always feel like, that's an ad. I can see it. That's product placement. You can't fool me. You're not gonna get me. That's an ad. And I always feel like I'm better than advertising, like I'm above it all. But I do have a bunch of stuff that I don't use, that I don't really remember why I got it. You know? And I think it's something that we need to pay more attention to, just the power of marketing, how influential it is, you know? Like just imagine a world where you work at some sort of agency, right? An ad agency, whatever, some type of marketing agency. And not now, right? Let's go even further back to when people were paying even less attention to ads and they were served less of them every day, right? Let's say you know, 70s, 80s maybe, and you're working at this agency. And you go in one day to work, just any regular day. And let's say you're like co-VP or something like that. You're high up there, right? And then you get into the building and everybody crying. You don't know why. People are walking out with those, you know, those cardboard boxes specifically for when you're fired. Everybody out there shaking, walking about, running out and everything. And you're like, what happened? And no one's even answering you. As you pass by people, you're like, what happened? They're like, no! And then you get to your office, maybe you share an office with somebody, and so you look at your partner and you're like, hey, what's everybody so upset about? What happened? Right? And then he's devastated. He's like, oh, it's horrible. One of our biggest accounts, top accounts, right? It's one of our top accounts, Kool-Aid, that some cult grabbed some Kool-Aid and they put a bunch of cyanide in it. They did like a mass thing. I don't know, the client is freaking out, you know? People may never buy the product again. We don't know what to do. This could be the end for us, because if they close, we close, right? And then you, being the brilliant marketing agent that you are, you stand there in the moment that this is happening. The day that the news has reached your office and you're like, you know what? Screw it. Let's lean into it. They
hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, what are you up to?
Not too much, just hanging out, playing some games.
Feeling like a villain?
Yeah.
The free game with my PlayStation Plus pass this month was fucking Diablo 4, so I was like, score.
Oh shit, that's
Downloaded
dope
that.
actually.
Yeah, so I just finished downloading that, so I'm probably gonna go downstairs and rip on that for a little bit.
Nice.
So this week,
Yeah.
Wednesday or Thursday, I'm thinking. What do you guys, what's your schedule this week?
I'm fairly free. I just work.
Yeah, I know you were just like,
Yeah, no, other than that, I don't really have anything planned though.
we need a good solid like 4 hours together, uninterrupted.
Alright.
So whatever works for you this week when you're not exhausted or whatever, as long as it's after Wednesday, because my brother's Magic Night won't be ready until Wednesday.
Alright. Yeah, no worries.
Alright?
Sounds good.
Alright, buddy. We're gonna have some fun. I'm excited, I'm pumped.
Alright, dope. Sounds good.
Alright, bud?
Yeah.
So yeah, let me know. And then when you do come this week, can you by chance bring me my pillow and my blanket that I left in Steve's car?
Yeah, I can do that.
If you don't mind. If you don't remember, it really is no big deal. I have other pillows and another blanket and everything here. But...
Yeah, sounds good.
Alright, bud, I'll let you get back to your games. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no worries. I'll talk to you later.
Alright, bud.
Bye.
Bye. I love you, bye.
Bye.